call the meeting to order and stand for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First thing on the agenda is the election of the president, and I will ask for nominations from the board for council president.
I'd like to nominate Mark Baldwin.
I'll second that.
Any other nominations from the board? Any other nominations from the board? I'll say 3 times. Any other nominations from the board? Okay, we'll have a roll call vote to elect Mark Baldwin as the president of the council. Baldwin?
Yes.
Green?
Yes.
Maury?
Yes.
Vic?
Yes.
Horton?
Yes.
Now I'll turn it over to Mr. Baldwin to elect the president pro tem.
I'd like to first of all say thank you for the council believing in me. I'll do my best to work with you and to represent the residents. And also I'd like to welcome Mr. Graham and Mr. Vick. And with that, I just want to take somebody's nomination for somebody to be pro tem.
You gentlemen know what that is? Right. Would one of you?
Yes.
I nominate Mr. Vick.
I'm sorry, Mr. Dick? Okay.
I second that motion.
Roll call.
Yes.
Baldwin?
Yes.
Brandon?
Yes.
Maury?
Yes.
Vic?
Yes.
Horton?
Yes. Now we can move forward to the approval of the agenda. I'm just assuming that you guys looked at all of this stuff ahead of time. I guess, do we have any discussion on the agenda? If not, I'm going to make a motion that we approve the agenda here for tonight as presented.
Report.
Roll call vote, please.
Baldwin?
Yes.
Brandon?
Yes.
Maury?
Yes.
Vic?
Yes.
Horton?
Yes. Approval of the minutes, the regular council meeting for October the 13th.
Chair. We have to have a public hearing on the community development block grant. That has to be called to order.
Has to be called to order.
Would you like me to explain?
So we're going to,
Would you like me to explain?
would you please explain this?
This is the village of Goodrich as well as our areas, the communities in our area, time to receive money for community development block grant. So we have to have a public hearing to take suggestions from the audience on what we might be able to spend our money on. I've done some research and asked as many questions as I could from the county, what might qualify. And as it is with every year, there's not a whole lot that qualifies. I do have, we can loan our money to have a number of municipalities in the area that would like to use it. What we do is we loan it to them, and then when the money comes around again, they pay us back. So that we can accumulate a larger sum, so we might be able to do a drainage project or something like that. We can use the money for blight, which we have a couple areas in the village that we could use that on, that we could turn it in to find out if that qualifies. I did ask if we could put a pathway into the park, which I've done for the last 10 years. It's not eligible because it does not remove an existing architectural barrier, the same with accessible bathrooms, and a drive into the parking area to put handicapped accessible parking. They do not remove an existing architectural barrier, so they do not qualify. If anyone has a suggestion for what we might use this money for, we have about $13,000. I would be happy to, on direction of council, submit it to see if it qualifies, unless I know for a fact that it doesn't because we've done it before. Anybody has anything, step up to the microphone.
Mark, through the chair, if I may, does it count towards road repairs?
No, the only place that, the village does not have a low mod district. We could do an income survey to see if anything qualified. We've done that in the past and we have not qualified to do that, but no, it does not, under those circumstances.
You have any idea, Jackie, we've looked at a number of options. Is there anything that you can think of that you haven't looked at?
I also tried to see if we could put automatic doors on this building, on the lower level and above for handicap accessibility. They don't qualify either because, again, in their opinion, they're not replacing an architectural barrier. I don't understand the reasoning for some of these things.
Yeah.
The only thing, like I say, that we could definitely, unless somebody has a good idea and I can check it out, is to loan the money again. We've done that the last 2 times around, or apply it to demolition of blighted structures as eligible. We have 2 areas in the village that have old barns that I'm checking to see if that qualifies. And then somebody mentioned at the last meeting, a house on M15.
Does that qualify?
Again, I would have to see, I didn't see what they said, but blighted structures are eligible.
Katie Beck, 9341 Green Road. I don't know a lot about this grant either, but what constitutes an architectural barrier? Like what are we talking about?
If there were, and I, as far as getting down into the park, I've argued with them for years, because going down from Eagle Road, there are some railroad ties, and that were there, and I tried to argue with them to say that, yes, there's railroad ties, and it's making stairs going down. I tried to get the accessible bathrooms down there. There aren't bathrooms that aren't accessible down there right now, so that we're not replacing something that isn't accessible.
And then my other question was, you said you had loaned the money before. How much have we loaned out that we're gonna be having come back eventually?
Each year, we probably have, I don't have the exact amount, the last time we loaned money to Argentine Township and Davison Township, and it's probably around 22,000 added all together.
Okay. And then, I guess I would like to suggest possibly something like signs. I don't know how those would fit in, but the Huron Street Park, that the wetlands behind the cemetery might, maybe putting in an actual official sign for something like that. Another suggestion I might say is in lieu of the Atlas Township recreational pathways that passed, perhaps, I know one of the pathways they had talked about pursuing was the old interurban railway, and that goes through the village, and I'm imagining we have some property that we would need to obtain to work with them, but I mean, the village passed it and the township passed for the parks, or the recreational paths. So possibly to obtain some of that land along there, because I know that would be a huge, huge thing for our village, if we pursued that with the township, and I know that's a project that we would have to work with them on, so just a thought.
Unfortunately, I don't think either one of those ideas will qualify, but I will check to make sure.
Well, from what I read over, it mentioned something about obtaining land for Parks and Rec or something, so that's why I suggested it, so, thank you.
Now we're just looking for more input from everyone.
If there's anybody else that wants to speak. If not, you can close the public hearing.
Public hearing.
One suggestion. Can we possibly use that money to clean the creek out below the dam with all the foliage and concrete and if there's any of those kind of areas that we can't move by hand?
It's not handicap accessible, and it's not in a low mod area, so. But again, I can mention it to them.
How about our elevator that's out of order here? Now that's handicapped.
The elevator actually works. We've rented the building out and we put it up there so the kids don't play. It works. I had to use it. It works.
Okay.
We're all set? Then close this.
Any council people have any suggestions? Close it.
Now we can move on to the approval of the minutes. We're looking for the regular council meeting, October the 13th.
Make a motion, we approve the minutes from October 13th through 14th.
Sure can.
Under new business of wood chipper, it says no action was taken. Is that gonna stay there, we're not gonna come to stuff together? So to speak, I think even though we didn't motion, or you guys didn't, so you guys didn't motion not to buy it, you guys did decide that we weren't gonna go down that path.
Not at this time.
No, it's off the thing.
All right, we have a motion, looking for some support.
I'll support.
Motion supported. Roll call.
Baldwin.
Yes.
Brannon.
Yes.
Maureen.
Yes.
Dick.
Yes.
Horton.
Yes.
And now the approval of the closed session, October the 13th, 2014, as presented. Gentlemen, I know that you weren't part of it.
At least for me, I'm gonna choose not to vote.
I'll make a motion to approve the closed session on October 13th, 2014.
I'll support that.
Baldwin.
Yes.
Brannon. Maureen.
Yes.
Dick. Horton.
Yes.
Those minutes have to be passed back. Please.
Yeah, those are sealed up.
Read that before you pass that back.
Take time.
Four. Rick, is that?
I had Rick's, he's looking for Tim's.
Tim.
Tim didn't turn his in.
That's the reason we passed them out the wrong names, so you stole it.
There's a method to the madness up here, you know
I
that.
like it.
Yeah, really.
Thank you.
Get the right one.
All right, so we're all set to do the treasurer's report, which is the quick sheet. Look at it. Questions?
Make a motion, we accept the treasurer's report for November 10th through 14th.
And supported, motion supported.
Baldwin.
Yes.
Brannon.
Yes.
Maureen.
Yes.
Dick. Horton.
Yes.
Last one, bills and transfers, the green one. Once again, anybody got any questions?
One question that I have is that we spent quite a bit of money on supplies, we're going to $1,600 and some change from Wood Hardware. We know what that was for.
If you like, I can pull those invoices and you can copy them. Just rounds? Okay, yeah, anytime you need them, they're all in the office. I don't remember, I didn't itemize it for you, but they do send an itemized bill.
You know, DVD, they do it.
Right, this is.
Other than that, you don't have any questions? Anyone else, questions?
I have a question, Mr. President. I don't see anywhere, where the, expenses for fuel and what have you. Where would that fall in? Do we mention about monthly account?
We have a tank
Right.
down there, we call and get it refilled when it's needed to be refilled.
Okay.
So it appears every, depending on how much they use the equipment, every 2 months, every 2 months.
Okay.
Any other questions? Are we set? I'm looking for a motion then to accept the bills and transfers.
I'll make a motion that we accept the bills and transfers dated October 1st, 2014 to October 31st, 2014.
And I'll support that. Roll call, please.
Baldwin,
Yes.
Brandon,
Yes.
Maury,
Yes.
Dick,
Yep.
Horton.
Yes.
Okay, now we're gonna have our PARJANA presentation. Gentlemen, you have the floor.
All right. Thanks again.
You got Tim's again?
We get a discount because I saved money.
I'm gonna turn off lights, but before I do, there's a larger crowd here last time. This is the second meeting in a row that we've been asked to come to. And I thought about, I want to present the information about the technology.
Mind if I turn off the light? Is that all right, or you want to?
Yeah, that's good.
Lights on.
So there's going to be a little bit of repetition because our technology is probably worth going through quickly again. Since we were here last time, we've taken more time to get a better understanding of the problem as well as how we can solve the problem. And that will be toward the end, and then I'll be happy to take some questions. In case you don't know who I am, I'm Rich Baum. I'm with PARJANA Distribution. We're based out of Detroit. We have a technology that does two main things. It infiltrates surface water. It increases infiltration rates tremendously so that you can solve a lot of stormwater management issues. And the second thing that the technology does is it helps manage groundwater. We can waterproof underground structures like basements with it. We came to understand the problem here in Goodrich, that there's a lot of issues with the old drain and the amount of water flowing into it. And so that's why we're here for a second time. So what I'll do is I'll go quickly into this and try to get to the things we want to talk about, which is what we can do to help the village. And let me proceed through this. Again, we can use this technology for a lot of areas. In California right now, we're working on recharging groundwater, for example. It's a big issue, water scarcity. In Africa, we're working on ways to get rid of standing water, to get rid of disease. We're working with the FAA right now to reduce bird strikes by getting rid of standing water at airports. There's all kinds of interesting things we can do with the technology. The EGRP is what we call this. It's the Energy Passive Groundwater Recharge product. We put these vertically in the ground. We drill holes with our specialized drill rigs. We can put 100 in the ground. We can put thousands in the ground. It's a very scalable technology, so we can do anything from handle a puddle in your backyard to a project like the one we're looking at here for the village, which is to infiltrate a much larger quantity of water. And so we can go from, again, a few devices to thousands to tens of thousands of devices. And, you know, again, there's all kinds of, you know, I'm gonna move through most of this technology stuff. Happy to answer questions on the back end too. But again, we just put a bunch of these in the ground to solve a whole series of different types of problems. Once they're in the ground, they actually work with energy in the earth. So we drill the little holes, we put them in the ground, they're 2 foot below grade in lengths of 5, 10, 20, and 40 feet. Once they're in the ground for, we say a minimum 12 weeks, they start to become fully functional. What makes them work is the pressure that's in the ground. We create a vertical channel where water can move up and down, and then horizontally, water molecules are able to move horizontally into the microlayers that are already in the earth. By doing that, we're creating more volume where water can move and allow greater infiltration at the surface. There's a fair amount of science behind it. That's a very basic explanation. And I'm going to try to keep it very simple because, again, all you guys need to know is, does it work and is it going to solve our problem? This is the type of rig. We actually manufacture these rigs. The nice thing is we're not going to tear up streets. We're not going to tear up earth. We drill little holes. They make a little pile of dirt. We shove the dirt back in the hole, and then we're done with that hole. This one you can see we drilled 3 holes at once. We think that's pretty cool because we got a 3-headed drill rig. It's kind of neat once we're installing. I wanted to give you guys a little bit of an idea, just a couple of projects. We have done a project for the Cincinnati Reds down in Ohio. It was a tremendous success. It was on this ball field. The right field line was always flooded. They could never solve the problem. We just installed our system, and within, this one worked a little quicker. Within about 10 weeks, they were extremely happy. They used traditional drainage. They were never able to solve the problem. And I picked it because it's the Cincinnati Reds. It's a nice brand to be associated with, and we're now looking at more projects with Cincinnati, with the Cincinnati Reds Foundation. It's not their main ball field. They run about 250 to 350 municipal fields to help bring baseball to the youth in the Cincinnati area. So we're not in the stadium, but maybe one day we'll be a Tiger Stadium. We'll see. So I think what's really important, since I was here last, we've had some wonderful press and results from our installation at Belle Isle. And this is a very good analogy for the problem you're dealing with here in Goodrich. The issue on Belle Isle was a little different, and that is that they had a pre-existing drainage system in the ground, and what they're paying there is $1.2 million in stormwater fees per year. We put a pilot project on the 24-acre section of the island to demonstrate that we could keep the water from going into the existing drainage system. So they had the manholes and the pipes in the ground. All that was going to the Detroit Water and Sewer Department for treatment. They were taking storm water and just shooting it over to the treatment facility. And when they had a really big rain, that water dumps into the Detroit River along with the combined sewage, and that's a real environmental issue that Detroit and a lot of big cities are dealing with. So we put our system in the ground and really completed it sort of in May. I think it was late spring. We already have a 63% reduction in volume of flow, which is a tremendous, tremendous reduction in flow. The firm that's doing the testing is ECT. They're a well-respected firm. It's third party. We have flow meters in the ground, and the project was funded by the Michigan Economic Development Corporation. I can tell you that the state of Michigan is very interested in our technology and reducing the amount of phosphates that flow into Lake Erie. We're going to have a project with that, so we're doing a lot of really cool projects. But I think what's key here is we took a large piece of acreage, 24 acres. We put our system in the ground. There's a lot of clay. It's very difficult to infiltrate water in clay. And now we've already reduced it 63%. And what we're talking about in Goodrich is a large piece of ground that we think if we infiltrate water there, like we're doing at Belle Isle, that we can really alleviate pressure on the old drain. I'll keep moving here. I showed this video last time. I think one of the big issues here is the worry that the existing system being proposed by Genesee County, they are saying that a 10-year rain is what we will take care of. Anything beyond that, each homeowner, each property owner needs to take their own measures on their property, which is a good idea to do in case there's a bigger rain. And what we'd like to do with our system, try to design a system that will get you to a much greater rainfall than a 10-year rain. And as a demonstration of the power of the system, I mentioned again last time that on August 11th there was a 4.5-inch rain that fell on Belle Isle. The next morning, the area with Parjana had no standing water. It was gone. And I will flip to this video real quick and I'll show you. And I'm just going to try to, we're limited on time, but this is what Detroit looked like. I mean, it was just flooded out. I mean, these are some of the bad areas. And so this is the island in areas where we didn't have the installation. This is Belle Isle.
The next one.
Yeah, the next morning. And we drove around, we showed some various areas. You can see all that water. I mean, just a ton of water. And the area that we did the installation was traditionally a wet area. I mean, if you talk to people who know the island, like Michelle Hodges, who's the head of the Belle Isle Conservancy, they would tell you that the area we installed in wasn't a dry area typically after rain. It was one of the bad areas. So I'm going to move forward and show you. So our leader, Greg McPartland, was there, and he took his own video, had the newspaper there. This is what the Shelter 5 area looked like. It's a 24-acre section, and what I think is important to know, and I'll just pause it here. So when I say the analogy is really strong for Belle Isle to Goodrich, is that imagine that this is the golf course and our installation is there and you have a massive rain. If we're capable of infiltrating water on the golf course, like we were here at Belle Isle, the water isn't going to go into the drain, not as much. A lot less water is going to go into the beginning of the drain where it crosses over Ridge Road. And that's why the third-party testing is showing already a 63% reduction, and our system is still activating. It's still creating that new way for water to move in the earth. We expect greater results. I would anticipate we're going to approach 90, if not above 90% reduction. And so my goal, and the goal I think of what we would do here, and I'm going to go back to the presentation and get away from this video. Just looking here at what we've got. Well, you guys know this place better than I do. But this is the area where where much of the golf course goes. The drainage system goes into the drain right here. And so you have most of the golf course is draining. A large portion of it goes this way and up through these ditches and through this system, and a lot of it comes this way and through these ponds, and ultimately it all comes over here. And it's approximately, and I've got a little bit of data, not a ton, but some basic areas. So the total drainage area, which includes again the village area here, some more residential down below the course, and everything is flowing in. Of the 142 acres, and again we've got to do some more calculating and some more work on this, but we're thinking 125 acres is about the area that we can manage if we do some stuff on the golf course. That's about 88%. On a 100-year rain, and if you're designing any system, we're talking about a 10-year right now for the systems being proposed. With a 100-year rain, this is the kind of volume we're talking. We're talking about 740,000 gallons an hour, or 0.21. That's about 0.218 inches an hour. It's about 5 inches in a 24-hour period, or probably a little more than that. It's a big rain. But again, what we did on Belle Isle, we handled a 4.5-inch rain. Okay, we can handle those kind of volumes. And by the way, the next morning, that was within 12 hours of that rainfall. The completion of that rainfall. It was a very long rainfall. It wasn't all in an hour or two. It seemed to go on for hours, that rain. I'm not here to say we're going to solve a 100-year rain. What I'm going to say is we're going to design a system that is cost effective as we can make it to handle a much larger rain than a 10-year. And where all those numbers hit, there's a lot of factors involved. But we want to get you be able to handle a bigger rain and feel secure that flooding isn't going to occur. So to show you what kind of we would do is, and these are the areas we're looking at. If all this water is flowing into this sort of creek here and around here, And then again, a lot of the water's coming this way and going all the way over here. And then this is where there's a ditch and we can sort of capture the water again over here. If we install, we think in these 3 areas, and again, this could change and move, and there's flexibility with our system. There's more than one way to do this. And there's, but essentially if we install in these areas, we can infiltrate a lot of water on the golf course, and it'll never get to this circle here is where the water crosses over Ridge Road. It goes underneath there in a pipe. I think there's one of the problems is there's an 18-inch pipe going into a 12-inch pipe. But if we are reducing the flow so much, we thinking we're going to take a lot of pressure off of whatever's done to the drain over the years moving forward, and it's an old drain, so there's going to be work done to it. That it could be done more in a piecemeal fashion after we. What I would recommend if we get into this is that we put a flow meter over here and really measure the amount of volume that's going through, and then you'll know, the drain commissioner will know, and engineers will know what they need to do moving forward about the volume of water flowing through the rest of the system. But that's basically the basic idea of what we do. We may only do this, or we may do it here and here, or we might decide to go upstream further over here. I mean, there's a lot of flexibility. Once we put these in the ground, they aren't in the way. I mean, you could golf over where these are. We put these in the middle of fairways. It's a very low impact installation. Let me show you some benefits. I just want to tell you, there's a number of benefits. Again, we believe by reducing flow from the course will alleviate pressure on the drain. And we're talking about the largest piece of property that's responsible for this whole drainage area. And I took a lot of this from the report, from the engineering report, the preliminary report about the drain. We think we can greatly increase the 10-year, over the 10-year storm, the overall performance of the system. Sorry about the apparent typo there. Moving forward, we think that it'll impact any improvements you make. If you alleviate that pressure, anything you do downstream is going to be impacted about what we can do, upstream. If we can really reduce the amount of flow into the system, it's going to take pressure off the system, and any improvements that are made, maybe they'll be a little lower cost, maybe they'll be a little bit easier to deal with. It will improve over time. Anytime you buy infrastructure, it requires maintenance, they deteriorate over time, pipes get old, they break, rain gardens, other green infrastructure, they need maintenance, things get clogged up. This system works by creating a new way for water to move in the soil. Nature isn't doing the heavy lifting. It actually improves over time. We guarantee our system for 25 years, knowing full well that this is going to work for many decades beyond that. But no one really believes that we can't keep a 50 or 100-year guarantee because no one would really buy into it. No maintenance is needed either. Again, the system it's in the ground, it starts to work, and it continues to work. So there's not going to be additional costs you have to start to think about when you install the system. Once it's in, it works. And really, that's really all I wanted to present this evening as far as what I have, and I'm happy to perhaps answer some questions. I do want to mention what we handed out. The article, we had a really nice article from Detroit Cranes in there that talks about the success of Belle Isle, and I think it's, again, very pertinent because of I think Belle Isle is a very nice analogy to what we're trying to do here. Yeah.
A couple of weeks ago, I had occasion to talk to the groundskeeper and manager at Plunbrook,
Yes.
and I don't know if you want to touch on that or not. I understand you're putting in 2 more areas, but he's still satisfied with what you've done at this point. And he had mentioned that the material is going to be a larger diameter, and actually talking about going down to 60 feet rather than sometimes 40.
Okay, yeah, this is a couple of good points, and I appreciate you mentioning that, because we have a lot of different proof sources. The inventor installed at Plunbrook in 2005. It was one of the earlier installs. And it may have been 2007 or 2005. Anyway, we installed the system there, and it was an area of the golf course. I mean, this is the oldest public course in the state of Michigan, is my understanding. This has been in the family for, 80 years or longer. And they always thought they could never solve the third fairway, because there was a creek that was actually higher than the low area of the fairway. I mean, it was elevated. So how are you gonna keep it from flooding if the creek is actually higher? So, the inventor, wanting to show what he could do with the technology, this is one of our early installs, said, hey, I'll come by and I'll put it in for free, and he did. And we solved their problem, and they are very, very happy, because now there's so many rounds of golf they missed, and that's how they make money, rounds of golf. Because they get a little bit of rain and they've had to shut down that hole, and now no one can play. So we can go, and sometimes if we go deeper than 20 feet right now, we discuss it with the MDEQ, who's watching over us very closely. We're working hand in hand with them. And we get permission when we do 40-footers. I didn't even know about the 60-footers. We can go deeper, and it makes the system a more powerful system sometimes if we can go deeper. And it's not a larger diameter device. We actually put 3 of these together. We interlock them together, drill one hole, and put 3 devices in at once. Any 20-footers and 40-footers or longer, they're always a triple. We call them triples. And it's because if you change the size of this design, it does not work. We've had a lot of engineers and different people look at it and say, well, what if you just make them bigger? It doesn't work. It's based on, Andrew's design. It's a patented technology.
One other thing, if I may. The local paper said that Jeff Wright is not in favor of green infrastructure. Do you consider this green infrastructure or not?
I think it is, it's different than most green infrastructure. And I think the reason some drain commissioners are not interested in green infrastructure is because it requires a lot of maintenance, and it's not as powerful necessarily all the time. But there's a lot of cities that are in favor. There's cities all over the country that are using it, and there's some who are waiting. This is kind of the best of both worlds. It's very powerful, it doesn't require maintenance, and so we are a very green type of infrastructure. We require no energy, no gas, and we let the earth do the heavy lifting, okay? But we're definitely a far different solution than, putting in rain gardens and bioswales, and, there's other types of green cistern, all kinds of things to infiltrate water that are expensive or require a lot of maintenance. Not that we're free or anything, but we really match up well with other technologies, dollar for dollar. And when you get into the maintenance side, once you start looking at long-term maintenance, nothing even touches our technology because everything else needs maintenance.
And I think you said you wanted to meet with Mr. Wright?
Absolutely. We certainly know we're going to have to engage with the drain commissioner. We are always working with engineers. We're always working with the state. We're going to work with everyone. We don't do anything without engaging with the proper authority or regulatory body. Yes, in the back.
Hi. Mine's a 2-part question. In listening to your whole presentation and how deep your product goes into the ground, and you identified it on the golf course. Knowing the golf course itself and knowing what is utilized on the golf course, and we all realize on the golf course that you have greens to maintain. You've got your herbicides, you've got your fertilizers, you've got all that is on the golf courses. And with that being said, my biggest concern, and I think I want to recognize Ms. Kubik here from the Drain Commission. Maybe you could answer it, hopefully. But the contamination of the wells that are in the area, and we all have wells. And I believe that we should all be concerned about our drinking wells. And because of that, in knowing how good your green infrastructure works, I think we need to be considerate of this, and I would assume that this may cause contamination. The second part of my question is, and this goes to the Drain Commissioner's office, can they assess for this green infrastructure that you're talking about? Because if you're talking about doing what you're saying you're doing on a golf course, then the golf course themselves, if they can't assess, and I'm waiting for an answer because I don't know it, but if they cannot, then the golf course and all these private homes, these residences that are involved in this Wheelock Watkins drain, would be the ones that would have to pay this up front. Because if it's not an assessed issue, you can't assess for it.
All right, let me try to answer both questions. First of all, they're really two very, very good questions, and I'm glad you're here. I've heard your name, but I haven't met you before. That was the first issue. The MDEQ is the regulating body that makes sure that we keep our water safe in the state of Michigan. And that was the first thing they said to us a couple of years ago was, you're accelerating contaminants. I mean, that's the most important issue that they are worried about. We don't accelerate contaminants. We are working on a study right now with, let me explain, let me explain it and then I'd be happy to take more questions on it. First of all, we're 2 foot below grade. A lot of the primary infiltration occurs, before you even get to the top of the device. It's 2 foot below. We repack the hole that we drill, so it's 2 foot below grade. Secondly, when water is coming into the system, it's not going in and going straight down. There is vertical movement along the channel, but what we're doing is water is drawn away and creating actually more openings and more porosity in the soil profile. So the profile of the soil, so we're creating as much horizontal movement as we are vertical. Well, earth is actually the best filter. I mean, we come up with all these ways to filter and clean, to clean contaminants and do things and clean water, and then we use it. Our system allows nature to do the heavy lifting there, So, also, it's about concentration of contaminants. A big problem in Michigan and in Ohio, and you heard about Lake Superior and the algae blooms, and we're getting involved in that as well, in reducing the algae blooms. We have a farm project coming up where we're going to be infiltrating on a farm so that the phosphates don't just run off out into the drain tile and into the creek, and then down River Raisin to Lake Erie. If we can use the earth to infiltrate that in a wide area, not just one little spot, but in a wide enough area, we can infiltrate that water through the earth, not straight down, to create more horizontal flow, more porosity, more layers where water's passing through. We actually believe that we're a solution to the problem, and in MDEQ we're working right now with Dr. Lush, who's a university professor at Michigan State. We've done some bromide flush testing where at City Airport, Detroit City Airport, in heavy clay soils, and they're seeing no spike in the bromide. And bromide's a way of testing how contaminants are transferring through. I'm not going to get into the details. I'm sure the Drain Commissioner is going to want to know and understand that a little bit better. But those are two very important questions. I hope I gave a good enough answer. Oh, the assessment, the money. The money side is not an area that that's not to Parjana District. We want to get paid, of course, because we're in business to make money. Certainly we want to know that the financing or the bond or the assessment can actually be done. I don't know enough about that kind of thing to know if there's some reason we would be disqualified. I would imagine if the city wants to put in infrastructure, that there's a way to get financing. And I know that in my company, we offer financing as well, even on a larger scale project. I think that's an area I don't want to cover. I think that's something you're going to have to explore. The village of Goodrich is going to have to explore the money side.
I just want to add one other thing too. There's something in Genesee County that's fairly recent called PACE financing. This PACE stands for Property Assessed Clean Energy, and that might be another alternative for a way to pay for the system if it's installed. And with PACE, they allow payments up to 20 years. So instead of having a 3 or 5 year payment or finance plan, this could be up to a 20 or 25 year payment plan.
But when you say something like that, then you're talking about the golf course. The golf course themselves would have to apply for that loan, correct?
I don't know. I would assume that I don't want to make any assumptions, but my understanding is that all the property owners affected by the drainage system would be involved. But again, there's a lot of people who are living here who are thinking about what am I going to pay, and I don't think that's an area of expertise for me to handle. Our company will install a system to solve the drain problem. How it's paid for really needs, is I'm sure, a discussion that the village will get in heavy, no matter what the system that's installed. Yes?
Regardless of how we're gonna pay for it, can you please share with us how much the Cincinnati project cost? And even though the state helped pay for the Belle Isle project, how much was that bottom line? What was the total
The Belle
cost?
Isle project, if we had installed that, and again, it's not an apples for apples, it's gonna be, you're gonna say, oh, it's 24 acres, and, you know, you gotta understand there are manholes there, and we're diverting water away from manholes. It's a
But what was
different-
the cost, is my only question.
The state, I mean, if we had sold that retail to them, it would have been about a $200,000 installation.
Okay.
But again, it's not apples for apples. We've already done some preliminary, just so you know, we've done some
Right.
preliminary number crunching on this.
Mhm.
I think we can be very competitive.
I just
and
wanted
give
to know
you
how much that project cost.
Yeah.
That's all I wanted to get an idea for the feel for it, that's all.
Yeah,
Thank you.
but I want to preface it by saying that it's not going to be, okay, 24 acres, well, now we're talking 100 acres, it's going to be, there's a lot of other factors involved.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Yeah, you're indicating your system in a low area, in the golf course.
Mhm,
Obviously, the water table is a high water table.
mhm.
How does your system push water into a water table that's coming into the hole and not dispersing?
Yeah. It's, a lot of the problems that we end up encountering are due to situations where there's a lot of low water, and this is a low area. I mean, there's a reason it was never farmed, you know, and I don't want to get too heavy into the technical engineering questions. I don't think I'm qualified to answer those well enough. I think those are, again, another important question. But what we do is we are able to, even when there's high or perched water, it's not always the water table per se, sometimes it's, you have perched water that's just at a higher area, and then the actual water table's at a lower level. But needless to say, there's a lot of water. And what we do is we're able to disperse that perched water into a wider area. We're able to create an area or a dry zone, if you will, where we can manage the water. And it's not probably a technical answer, but that is what we are coming across all the time. I mean,
The way I see it is, you've got to get, there's usually a layer in there that's
clay
that clay or something that will not allow the water to go through. So you're penetrating this layer,
yeah.
and your tubes are going past the layer of penetration that they're allowing water to go below the natural
Yeah,
water.
I mean, we've seen
table.
it even in sand, you know, you have sandy soils on the west side of the state, but you have a layer of clay that's causing a problem. And yeah, it's true, when you pierce through those heavy layers, I want to mention at City Airport, it's 42 foot of pretty heavy clay. I mean, we have soil borings, I don't know the exact structure from top to bottom, but a lot of clay. And we were able to get water, and the standing water that was sitting there was there for years. I mean, a foot, it was there most of the year, I mean, continuously. And now it's all gone.
Do you do any preliminary soil borings before you give the council a sheet that says this is what we think it should be done, because here's the soil borings, here's the penetration, here's our clay layers?
Yeah, the way we describe how we handle soils, and we welcome any soil borings and that kind of thing. There's an expense involved with them, and the more information is always the better. But we do work, and we design a lot of systems without soil borings. Engineers always, a red flag goes up with engineers when we get into that. But we work in most all soil types and a lot of heavy clay soil types. And we just size our system. And what we do in a house is we do tend to look at groundwater flow, and any information we can gather on that is always helpful. We want to know where the water is underground, where it's flowing. That's part of our design work. Yes?
I would like to, I think Mrs. Wortella brought up a good point about the possibility of contaminating the wells. I see that, because you offer the 25-year guarantee. Do you guarantee that it will never contaminate the wells?
You know, that's a good question. That's never been asked of me.
Really good question, you can't answer. To be honest with you,
Yeah,
It's a legal question.
I don't think, I think.
To be honest with you, I think our guarantee is indicating, guarantee of it working in the way that we lay it out and what it's designed to do. But I think that's more like a legal question that I don't think I'm prepared to handle.
I was curious of whether or not you offered a guarantee that it would not
Our guarantee
contaminate
covers the
wells.
performance of the system and we.
Performance guarantee.
So here's how our guarantee works. If I'm waterproofing a home, our guarantee is that the water won't go into the home. And there are, of course, Mother Nature is very powerful. There are some instances where water can get in, but we have a guarantee that essentially covers that performance. For the Cincinnati Reds, it was make sure the water doesn't come back. If there's a heavy rain by the end of the day or 8 hours, they wanted to be able to use the field.
Right.
So for the city of Goodrich, we would come up with whatever the performance requirement is, we would.
I understand the
Yeah,
performance requirement, I was just
Yeah.
curious whether or not you guaranteed.
Yeah, we've never
We're all under
guaranteed
wells.
that on any of our projects.
Okay.
We've never gone into, that question's never been asked, and I
And then
I wouldn't give you a good answer right now.
My next question is, how well would your system, have you taken into consideration, like how well will it stop the Kersley Creek from entering into the Wheelock and Watkins Drain? There's a culvert under Ridge Road that nobody will shut down that allows the mill pond to backflow onto the golf course for their irrigation purposes. It overloads their ponds, drains right into the Wheelock.
Yeah, you're getting into an area where, again, there's other engineering factors involved. I think what I would do is I would say, if we can reduce the amount of flow going into that spot up here, I know that there's another, that they can let water onto the course. Under certain circumstances, they do that. I don't know what the circumstances are. I thought part of it was for irrigation. Maybe someone else can answer that question. All I'm trying to focus on is reducing the pressure to that point. Other factors, I mean, we can start to take the engineers and say, okay, what happens beyond what we are doing with our system? There are better people to answer that question than myself at this point. Yes?
Sir, with all due respect, you've come and spoken here twice already.
Yes.
You seem to have a pretty good grasp of what needs to be done, but you've alluded numerous times that you're not the right person to give us a quote, tell us the ballpark figure. Now, is there somebody that is capable of that?
Well, yeah, I'll explain why I'm at where I'm at in the process.
Okay.
First, you guys have a problem here, and someone learned about our technology and asked us if they thought it would work, and we said, yeah, it would work.
Well, obviously,
Yeah.
I mean, you've given a good,
Well, I'll answer your question, I really will. And so the next stage was waiting for the time for them to say, you guys to say, okay, we'd like you to look into it further. Well, now, we're digging in, we've got, our design team is designing now. We've gotten as far as locations the progress today is, we've got more data from Belle Isle, which is very significant to the whole engineering community in the state and beyond. And number two is, now we have an approach and we understand the volumes that we're dealing with, and we feel strongly that we can do something. I was asked to come to present the system again, but the next stage will involve a more significant engineering work on our side, and we will be able to present that in a more scientific way. And that's where I tend to step to the side. And I can help present that, but then when the questions come and it becomes a more hearty conversation, we will have people that can help with that.
And if I could, this is all very good questions, but this is, in the infancy of this. We started out and then we stopped because of the lawsuit. And then these guys, they started back in with everything. We don't have all the answers. That's what we are trying to do, is research these, inform you people so we get the input, which is important. All of them are good questions. The money issue just yet, we will undoubtedly come to that, but we kind of just baby steps. And I recognize you, go ahead.
Well, I don't have a question at this point because they don't have engineering numbers, but some people had some questions, and if the board would allow it, I'd be happy to answer some of how we assess and.
You're always welcome.
Okay. In regards to green infrastructure, well, assessing in general, any work done through our office is done through special assessment. So we don't get any ad valorem taxes. The people who would pay would be the owner of the road, in this case the village. For general health and welfare, the village would also pay a portion, and the remaining would be everyone in the drainage district who receives benefit. The statement that our office is not in favor of green infrastructure, we are. The article, I believe, was written by an individual that the paper printed that talked about what our office didn't do with green infrastructure. What it has to come to is the law is that we function under, Public Act 40, is vague when it comes to green infrastructure. It was, the last major modification was in 1956. There was no green infrastructure back then, and it comes down to an interpretation of the law. And our office is for green infrastructure if it does not add unnecessary costs to the job. So if we can do something without putting the burden on you and asking you to pay for something that that is above and beyond what we're dictated to do through the state law, then we would be happy to do it, or if we put it to a vote to the people who have to actually pay for it. Then if they say, yes, we want this, then there have been previous discussions with members of the board about the green infrastructure and what our office can and can't do when in regards to green infrastructure. The reduction on the golf course is great. The amendment to our study, one of the things we had Fleece and Vanderbeek look at the request of board members was the impacts of the golf course on the system as a whole, and one of the things we looked at was eliminating the golf course entirely and its impact. Will the existing system work without the golf course if we cut them off entirely? And the system was still undersized. Parts of that system were built in the late 1800s. It wasn't built to today's standards. So to meet the 10-year storm, some of that pipe still wouldn't work even if the golf course was completely cut off.
Well, Ms. Kubik, since you're up and you're discussing both sides of my question, what I want to ask you though is, wasn't there a third and fourth option that was introduced to the village council back in September? Was there a third and fourth option?
We had 2 or 3 options that we explored. Our office had a meeting with members of the board in early spring. They had some other options that they would like explored, so we took that back to our engineering firm, and that is what's in the addendum itself, is those additional questions that they had.
Well, the reason I'm asking is because that hasn't been made public.
It's on our website.
I realize that, but a lot of people don't know that, and now that you've voiced that, we do know that. But, and that would be a third and fourth option for
it's not a brand new third option, a brand new fourth option. What it is like one of the questions was, instead of rebuilding the drain down Erie Street, what if we put a relief down through the park and leave the Erie Street drain alone? Is there any cost savings? So the options in the addendum were, if we did this, how much money would we save off the top? So that's where that addendum came, was, were there any cost saving options? And those are specific
And if I could interject it,
scenarios.
as long as, no matter what we do, there still is going to be pipe. There still has to be pipe regardless. But the thing is, if we can cut down the amount of water that comes to Ridge Road, the amount of volume, we can put it in smaller pipe.
Yes, and there is
That's
a
a
cost
huge cost
savings.
reduction.
Can I give some insight here? The biggest thing that I'm concerned about, this whole picture, is spending $1 million or $500,000.
Exactly.
And we've put this on the premise of a 10-year load as far as the water is concerned. That is not going to stop the flooding situation, especially in that low area. You know that, I know that. And when our community spends that kind of money or whatever, we're trying to look for a system that will go over and above the 10-year. I understand we can never guarantee Mother Nature what she might do or whatever, but a 10-year platform is very low in the overall.
Correct.
And when dealing with other designs, okay, a lot of them are a minimum of 100, and they're even going to 200-year studies on a lot of these things. And when you spend $1 million, a lot of thought has to be put in many different directions here to see if we do spend the money that we're going to solve the problem.
When we say the 10-year, just so, the standards were not set by us, these are standards all over the country, but any detention basins put in, if one of the options was to put a pond on the golf course, it wouldn't be sized for the 10-year. We always size detention basins for the 100-year. So if that option ended up happening, instead of putting it in the ground, putting it into a pond and temporarily detaining it, that pond would be designed to handle a 100-year event, and then release it at the 10-year. The pipe itself, when we say it's the size for the 10-year event, that's flowing full. Now, except for the real low area, a lot of that pipe, the further you go downstream, the ground goes up, the pipe goes down. A lot of that pipe's 20, 30 feet in the ground. So it'll actually handle a lot more water than the 10-year event as you get depth on it. The problem is when the pipe's very shallow, as it is in the low area. But even with that pipe, if that pipe's sitting 1.5 feet in the ground, it has the ability to have 1.5 feet of head on it, which will allow it to pass above and beyond the 10-year event.
I know from an engineering standpoint, and I was down in Siesta Key in Florida, and it was on Ocean Boulevard, if you're familiar with Longboat Key or whatever. And we installed through an engineer, okay, a 24-inch aluminum perforated pipe wrapped with P-rock and whatever, okay, and the water table was 6 inches below the road. That was existing. Of course, you're close to the ocean there and whatever, okay? And we put a double system on both sides of the road, okay? And the catch basins only went down 6 inches below the bottom of that road when we finished. And after we finished, I told the engineer there's no way this thing would ever work. And it was probably maybe 6 months after we installed the system, okay? We got one of these 100-year rains or whatever, and it took care of it. But what happened is that water through that system would go down into that pipe and dissipate back into the water table, okay? And then handle it. So there's a lot of thought that needs to be put in here, and when you're spending that kind of money, we need to try to do the best thing for our community and make sure when we get done, we spend this money, we solve some of the, a big part of this problem.
Absolutely, and that's why we're happy to meet with yourself and the board and explore these other options. Real quick, I just want to reiterate what he said earlier, that groundwater is under the purview of the Department of Environmental Quality. Your drinking well is regulated by the local health department. So, what you're pumping out is the local health department, what's going into the ground is the DEQ, and I'm not sure if your wells are shallow or not.
Would you agree that to get the contaminants not to go into the water table, this is done in sewer systems and everything, they use ground to filter these problems out? From an engineering standpoint.
Yeah, the ground is used to filter. And the other thing I will say, whether it's a rain garden, whether it's this system, they're not adding any more contaminants to the ground that are already there. So if there is a contaminant, whether it moves in 10 years or 5 years, it's the same amount of contaminants, but that ground can filter and the heavy soils can capture a lot of those contaminants. But
I have a quick question, if I may. It's been bandied around, we don't really have a definitive answer. If a program or a project is deemed to come out from the Drain Commission, and it has a severe financial impact, perhaps even devastating impact financially on that community. Can they be forced to take it? I ask that because there's issues of lawsuits, issues of dams, so forth and so on. Put it all together, it becomes a very severe impact. I've heard before, you can decline.
The one that's come straight to my mind is the Mystigate, because they're similar situation. It's a large district, but it's also a very large assessment area. All I can say is we work very hard to take the finances into consideration, keep the costs as low as possible, so we don't cause any hardship to any individual or community, because, yay, we solved your problem, but sorry, you lost the house. I mean, that doesn't really work. So we work very hard to keep that balance between finances.
I'm sure you
So
do,
I
but
can't
the
give you,
question is,
I can't give you a yes or no.
There's safety and welfare of the people here,
Yeah.
and we have to consider that.
But, we do look at finance as a consideration in what we do. Because, you can't break the bank to fix the problem
This also
either.
could be done, I didn't mean to interrupt, this could also be done in a series of improvements over time.
And we
where-
have done that
Well,
before.
we'll just say example, these guys come in and do this first, and then we do pipe from, point A to point B, and then we come back a few years later and do, from B to C. You wouldn't have to do all of anything at once. You have to keep it to where the monies are going to be, acceptable, working in our budget. I don't mean to cut anybody short, but, I'd like to move on and turn it back over to these guys, and then,
Can I ask one question?
oh, please.
Do you know what the cheapest proposal was that Jeff Martin, I believe it was 2B, if I read it right, it was somewhere around $23,000?
Well,
And that had to deal with coming to an agreeable level with the mill pond, closing off the culvert going to the golf course, and using the 33-inch pipes underneath the road.
the original study, I believe the cheapest alternative was around 600,000. And then the addendum discussed cost savings on top of that option through various scenarios that were asked of us. Honestly, I don't remember off the top of my head what the lowest one was based on the various scenarios. But there was some cost savings, like I said, if we go across the park instead of down Erie Street, there was a cost saving if you were able to reduce the flow off the golf course.
Wasn't one of those, if you actually lowered the level of the pond, then
You could backflow a lot of the low
it would flow
area
into the pond area like it used to do as
before it
opposed
was
to
before it was a pond, yeah.
Back to the river.
If I may, I just have one more thing to add. Our flooding problem isn't isolated to just that. There's another subdivision with a string of houses on Green Ridge Estates that they're having the pipe from the mill pond, which is supposed to be a drainage pipe, just like the current situation. And it's flowing out of that pipe and flooding these houses with a lot of water. And is there also a charge for you guys to do the engineering proposal to give us an actual figure on how much we're looking at?
When the way we work is we do a preliminary, what we call a range, because we have a new technology, we will throw out a preliminary range at no cost. But the second stage will be, okay, this is the basics of our project. The next step is an engineering fee. Our engineering, engineering is not even the right word, because there's no one with a college degree, an engineer that's been trained in how to design a PARJANA system. It's only something that we can do at PARJANA. Then we interface, but the point is the design work, the more substantial design work. There is a cost involved, and when we present the range, we'll present a number on that as well. But it's nominal. It shouldn't be.
Because we're on like a day 45 of our 30-day time frame, so.
Yeah, we're going to move, at this point, what we want to do, next steps is move quickly to get a viable, a range for you. And we should be able to get there fairly quickly and have a good conversation with Genesee County Drain. And, you know, we're now moving at a, we're now bringing everything together and moving things forward. We know there's a time frame. That was one, you know, your question is, we were here last time, now you're here this time, and all of a sudden there's this short window, and we're just trying to get involved and do what we need to do to see what we can present to you.
Well, you just keep emphasizing that you'd like to get paid, well, we'd like to know what we have to pay yet.
Yeah,
Yeah, looks like $1 million.
yeah. And I, you know what, when we get to the range, we'll really hone in on that, and that'll be an important step. And if I could have it now and present it to you, I would, but we haven't had enough time. Are there any more questions? I guess the one last thing I want to reiterate is our goal would be to help the system handle a larger capacity rate at a cost that's feasible. Everyone's probably got a different number in their head of what's feasible, but I think we can do something that's good, and I think we've shown some good performance in the field here in the Detroit area. I really hope that we can do something for the village. We would love it. Yeah.
And I would like to thank you guys for coming in. A little longer than I probably thought you were going to be up there for.
Thank you.
And to those here, questions, input, I would encourage anyone to contact one of us and bring us all of your questions, any suggestions that you have. Gentlemen, once again, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. With that part, we're ready for public comment. And I will follow Mr. Horton's lead and be gracious with the 3 minutes. If it kind of drags on because we're a little late now, I might ask that we try to wrap up. And I would like to also tell everyone in the audience, please, be respectful. Anyone that goes up here is entitled to speak. You may not agree with them, but please be respectful. Surprise, surprise.
Teresa Allen, I'm curious now, congratulations. What the policy is when a resident approaches you and hands you documentation because it's supposed to be addressed to the chair. However, last month when I presented it to the president, it was handed off to Mr. Maury, which at the end of the meeting on video, it was passed off to Mr. Bass. It wasn't put into the minutes, it wasn't, and when I had a conversation with Ms. Sheriff, she said that it has to come to her, and the president has to instruct her to add it into the minutes. So I'm just trying to understand what the policy is, because maybe that was acceptable, but I found it inappropriate. You know, I tried to keep names out of it publicly. I kind of feel like now I just gotta bring it out. I would like to present council the opportunity to see what I had passed out originally, in case you didn't have a chance to look at it, because my concern is when you bring residents in as a village representative, and there's some issues, it could down the line become a liability to the village. And I just think it's something that we should really stay away from. So may I present this to you to be passed out to other members of council to take a look at?
Set it down here.
So I'll just set you one, and then I can pass it out to them, because they're
You
not
said
gonna
it is
get it.
fine, I'll take care of it.
I've got several more copies.
Just set it here, I will take care of it, that's no.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Let's move right along. Unfinished business, Genesee County Sheriff's Department report, please. Have any questions? Alice Township, yes.
I have a question, Mr. President.
Please.
Is this is over a 1 month period for the, that's all they're doing? Let's see here a second. They've had, to 6 incidences in Atlas.
It says 10/12/14 is when this started.
It's,
I would assume that this is up to date. I mean, this is what was,
So this is
Good
for
to you.
10/12, and when the accidents that tomorrow, they'll probably be there.
a lot of times
It
it's
changes
two sheets
from-
too. It
from
doesn't
month
always
to
stay
month
there.
what we get.
oh, yeah, because I would, it doesn't specify whether it's a daily log. It just says activity log. Is that how they normally work it, just one day at a time?
Depends on what they send to us. It comes from Genesee County Sheriff's Department. Sometimes there's 3 or 4 different pages. This is all that I got this week, or this month, so far. But like I said, tomorrow, they'll probably come in, and I'll put it in your mailbox.
I just find it hard to believe there's only been 6 incidences, in,
No, I would assume that was all on 10/12.
Yeah, maybe like yesterday.
But when they come in, I'll put them in your boxes. Correct them.
Anything else? Street Administrator, 9/11 Waterways, Parks and Rec.
The spreader's been repaired, the new auger was put in, the new bearings. Tractor's back with our new blower on the front. It looks like it's gonna work pretty well. The heater was installed. They'll probably be out sweeping a little more leaves tomorrow with the push broom, get them out of the gutters before the weather turns up at the end of the week. Thank goodness we're not up in the UP, because we're getting about 15 inches of snow tonight. Equipment's pretty well ready to go. They've been working on it. The drop-in spreader, probably come spring, I would like to pull it apart, take the box off it, and take the steel part down to Ortonville. There's a shop down there where they can sandblast it and recoat it, powder coat it, because it sets in the truck and it's solid in there, and we don't want it to rust out. We want to keep it so we can use it. The polyurethane box is great, but it sets on steel. Salt sand. No matter how you do it. And hopefully we use a little bit of salt so we can get it in out of the weather. We've got 400 ton out there and we had to take it all at once. We don't want to use it all at once, but we'd like to have some left.
9/11.
We're still working out the details with the city are going to be incorporated into the Genesee County 911 system. I'm gonna keep going.
Yeah, go ahead.
Water and waste, the attorney is reviewing the new contracts that we received from Genesee County for our maintenance. We contract with Genesee County to do all the maintenance, just for your information, on our sewer system. And the new contract's being reviewed, it'll be brought to council next month. Parks and Recs, from the public hearing that we had, I would like to schedule a meeting sometime mid-January, after the holidays. An open meeting, just dealing with that, to get some more input for the Parks and Rec. So, ads will be put in the paper and, people can sign up, come to the meeting and just come.
Could we possibly also do a committee for the Parks and Rec during that time? Or ask for volunteers for one?
Send the emails. Discuss it then.
Could be done at that time. I got one application from, Mrs. Fick to just, anybody
Let's
can
work together.
put an
Might as well throw it all
application.
together at once, we don't have more meetings coming up.
Are you all set? You got a question?
Yeah, I do apologize, I'm a little out of order here, but I did see street administrator, and I thought that that was an appointed position too by the council. And I don't believe we did that under the election part of this.
As long as the street administrator is the current street administrator, you don't have to do it. Next month, we'll be coming back with, a list of things that you guys will be volunteering for.
So we'll cover that then next month.
While we're talking talking about street administrators, I'd like one of these new guys to volunteer, so I can break them in.
I would like to volunteer.
Okay.
Next month we'll talk about that.
And I meant that with no disrespect,
No, that's fine. Because I'm getting ready to retire from that job.
All set? Everybody okay?
Yes.
All right, let's move forward. Code enforcement.
Yes, my name is Dave Lucic, and I want to welcome the two new council members to the council. I'm the go-to guy that you have any code enforcement. I'm the guy that tries to help.
Thank you, sir.
That's it.
I'd like to say Dave's been very successful the last month. There was a couple of issues and he went and talked to the people and, they're working with him, taking care of the problem. He just asked them to work with him and get the problem taken care of, and so far we've been able to do it. He's doing a good job and I thank him.
Got need a raise?
You get paid more than I do.
Thank you should be good enough, shouldn't it? We're all set with that, and like to administrative, please.
Just a couple things, for the new council people, we can set up a time, to give you your packet of information, come to the office, take it home, look it over, and then we can set up a time, to read, or answer questions with you. There's a lot of information that, you'll need to take a look at, the ordinance book, the zoning book, different things like that. There is a class, that I'll put in everybody's box that, if you want to take it, it's the new council people class. There's one in Frankenmuth. Some council people have gone to it, some haven't. But I'll put it in your boxes for you. And just to let you know, I will be on vacation from the 20th to the 2nd, 20th of November to the 2nd of December.
You want to hear nothing?
Let's move on to the dam, please.
You get yourself in big trouble, you know that.
Dam, Jackie?
I don't have anything on the dam. It's working,
Sidewalks?
unless somebody has something to report that are, in need of repair, I don't have anything.
I do have a question about the sidewalks, the bike path. Are we gonna send out some kind of flowers or put flowers, some kind of flyers or something in the newspaper telling everyone along the sidewalks and the bike path about snow removal policy this year?
We do that on a yearly basis.
State road property, enlighten us.
Yeah. Something
Well, the 10th of October came and went, and that was the order from the judge. We heard today that December 1st is the drop dead date that Mr. Louis Corey has to have the building down on State Road. He has not come in and got a building or a demo permit yet, but he has taken care of the gas and electric. He's talked to soil erosion down at the county. He needs to unhook the sewer, and he needs to get with the health department to get the well cap. So be watching and be excited.
We like Watkins Drain
I think we covered that. I don't have anything else.
quite extensively. Yeah, once again, anybody, any input, questions, suggestions,
I have
please?
one question.
Not now. Anything that you have for input, would love to have you forward it to council members. And I think a lot of you know some council members know. Forward the information, please.
Mr. Chairman, for the Watkins Drain proposal that Jeff White sent in, I know some of the previous council members who are no longer aboard still have those, which they can keep, but can be in Mr. Brandon, please.
I'll see to it that you get all the information I have.
Thank you.
The Goodrich, the downtown Christmas.
Yeah, if anybody's here for that or not. Included in your packet, there's a letter that they would like to close Eagle Road between the turnaround west of M15 and Erie Street like they've done for the last 2 years at least. They have used some of our barricades in the past. The chamber will supply the needed signage. They have banners that they will be putting up. Notified all all the businesses and homes in the area. And they're just looking for your approval to do that, to provide that recreation opportunity to the village.
Questions?
Yes, you said turnaround near M15?
Where the dam is,
Oh,
that's a turnaround right there, where those pine trees are,
okay.
that's where they started.
We close it there and then we close it at Seneca Street, so no traffic can get through.
What's the date?
They had anywhere from 300 to 500 people up there for an hour, hour and a half, and just with the street being closed, it makes it a whole lot safer.
Gotcha.
And,
So, looking for a motion to.
I'll make a motion
Request.
that we approve this request for the Goodrich Atlas Chamber of Commerce, sponsoring the Goodrich Downtown Christmas, that we go ahead and, as presented, close Eagle Road.
Support.
You all set?
Thank you, on their
Caldwell?
behalf.
Yes.
Brandon?
Yes.
Maureen?
Yes.
Dick?
Yes.
Horton?
Yes.
All right, new business, the CDBG projects.
We have to make a motion. I will check the purchase of land for recreation, I will check any signage. The loan and the blight, tearing of buildings, those are both projects that I can submit for. I would like a motion to submit these projects, providing that community development says that the purchase of recreation land and signs are projects that comply with the regulations.
I'll make a motion that we go ahead with the CDBG projects and do the things that you're required or like to do, and see where we stand at all.
Support. Roll call.
Baldwin?
Yes.
Brandon?
Yes.
Maureen?
Yes.
Dick?
Yes.
Horton?
Yes. We have resolution 2014-18, that's the PA 152, and Jackie, please, could you just briefly, enlighten us?
This is a resolution that is required by the state. We do not receive any of the funds that started this project for the state. We stopped receiving statutory money probably 3 or 4 years before they even started this program. So we're not, any of our funding is not jeopardized by this resolution or anything else because we don't receive the money. What this is allowing you as council to determine if the village citizens or the village employees pay a portion of their health and what that portion would be instead of following the mandatory 20% or ceiling. So this gives you the option to do whatever you want to do.
20%.
What are they paying, before, or for you know, early reduction type thing?
No.
Okay.
That's something that would be discussed at budget time.
So, for my understanding and clarification, if we do decide to exempt this again, it still has nothing to do with what coverages or anything that you guys are receiving, it's something that we'll be doing under budget and when you bring in the benefits and stuff. So I guess my question is, when did we become not qualified for the funding that this act is?
Like I said, this has been in place since 2011, and we stopped receiving those types of funds. We get constitutional state revenue, and we used to get statutory state revenue, but we probably didn't receive any of the statutory for 3 or 4 years prior to this program being initiated.
And would the statutory be considered transportation expenses as well?
No. Statutory is just, it was something that was voted in a long time. No, it doesn't have anything to do with transportation. Act 51 is transportation.
I don't mean to take a lot of time on this, but if I may.
Ask the question.
The reason why I'm asking is because, what I'm looking at for your reference is Public Act 152 on the state of Michigan Treasury that was updated August 21st, 2014. Additional, a public employer's non-compliance with the 2011 Public Act 152 may subject the public employer to reduction or loss of funding other than from the EDIP program.
Right, we don't receive that.
Okay. Beginning September 30, 2014, the Michigan Department of Transportation may withhold all or part of the distributions to local road agencies from the Michigan Transportation Fund. Do we receive any of that fundage from the Michigan Transportation Fund? Is that in addition or separate from what you're speaking of?
What you're reading is, if we had strictly transportation employees, which we don't, our employees are spread across the board, then we would have to put information on our website as to what they do, what they make, all that, but we don't have strictly just transportation employees, so that does not apply to the village of Goodrich. I can give you the name of the contact in the state if you would like to call them.
No, I believe I'm just want to
I
make
just
sure
went
by
to
us,
a meeting regarding that, and asking all that.
I just don't want to exempt us and call it out.
No.
That's what I'm looking at.
Believe me, I tried to.
Any other questions? I'm looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the resolution 2014-18 as presented.
Support.
Roll call.
Baldwin.
Yes.
Brennan.
Yes.
Maureen.
Yes.
Vic.
Yes.
Horton.
Yes.
Now, the land combination 02-22-502-037 and 02-22-502-038, better known as 10230 Eagle Road.
I don't know if anybody's in the audience for this either, so would you like me to explain?
Please.
I gave you the Planning Commission minutes. They are making application to combine the property on Eagle Road that used to be the old hotel that was torn down. Smokin' Jay's owns the building that they're in, and they purchased through Genesee County that additional property to the side. They have a plan in, which anybody can take a look at, to add on to their building with seating. Right now, they don't have seating, they just take out. So they came to the Planning Commission and requested that they have their site plan approved, which was approved, and Planning Commission forwarded the land combination to council for your approval.
Questions?
Any questions?
Comments for anyone? Looking for a motion.
So moved. I'll make the motion.
Looking for somebody's support? Support. Roll call, please.
Baldwin.
Yes.
Brennan.
Yes.
Maureen.
Yes.
Vic.
Yes.
Horton.
Yes.
Last one, resolution 2014-19, reappointment to zoning board of appeals. Do we know who this is for? Everybody take a look at this, did we? This is, I would like to make the motion for this, if you guys want to have any discussion.
Just combine lots.
I'd like to make the motion that we reappoint Keith Walworth to the zoning board of appeals. Support. And supported.
Baldwin.
Yes.
Brennan.
Yes.
Maureen.
Yes.
Vic.
Yes.
Horton.
Yes.
Public comments. Anyone? Mr. Bass.
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to bring it up to you that Miss Allen has circulated some reports about me and the Missouri operation, okay, that I have taken care of. I'm not an elected official, okay? And I would rather that you hold on to that information, okay? It has nothing to do with the village of Goodrich, nor does it affect anything that's going on here. And if this thing continues on, there'll probably be a slander lawsuit before it's over with. And I'll rest my case, and I would hope that you would hold on to that for me, please. Thank you, sir.
Anyone else?
I am Therese Allen, and if anyone wanted to Google the name, there's plenty of information out there. What I've provided are newspaper articles. And my concern is when you bring in a village resident, as a village representative, that opens it up to fair game for investigation to see what their qualifications are. I was kind of stunned when I came across this information, and I just feel that it would be best suited for people without that kind of past. Whether he, you know, I'm not saying he's a bad guy, I'm not saying he's incapable. Excuse me.
Order, please.
I am just providing counsel with that information, so that when you do research and bring in village residents to represent the village, that you know, and I think it just should be a little more cautious, that was all. Thank you.
Anyone else? This is the part where the council can make comments, and I'm going to start off with a couple of things, and that's number one, Jackie, I'd like to make sure that we get keys, books, and anything else from past council members, please. And with that said, I am going to listen to public comments, and if I can answer at the end of the meeting to the public comments, I will. If I do not, it's because I don't have the information. I will research it. Next month, I will respond to your public comments. It's important to me that you know that we're listening. Okay? With that said, gentlemen, if you have anything to add, it's your opportunity. You understand that you are addressing me, correct? Okay.
Yes. Mr. President, I appreciate you guiding me through this, this first meeting. It's quite a different show on the other side. Thank you.
You know what I just got?
Mr. President, first of all, congratulations. Second of all, I don't really know what's going on between the two residents and what was handed to you, but just with the two conversations that took place, I'm very interested to read what was handed in. I would like to go on record stating that if we are having a resident speaking on our behalf, I would like to know information about that resident. Not saying that the information that you have is truthful or whatnot, again, because it did come from somebody else, but it is kind of curious on what information was given and then given back. So I'll just leave it at that.
Anyone else?
No, but it was a good meeting, a lot of people, a lot of information. These gentlemen over here gave us a lot of information a couple months ago, and they proceeded to do it again, which is very interesting.
Anyone else? I'm looking for a motion for adjournment.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
All in favor?